Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and happy Youth Day. This is one more of our weekly Q&As with Dr. Mike Ryan and Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove. As today is Youth Day, we will be focusing on responding questions about COVID-19 and young people. You can watch us today on TikTok, hopefully Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We've had some technical issues here behind the scenes, so apologies for delay in timing. Maria, Mike, as we celebrate today Youth Day with the theme Youth Engagement for Global Action, what is our message to young people today and how they can be part of the solution to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for having us, and I hope all the platforms are working. So I think our message is simple. It's get yourselves involved and keep yourself safe, and you have a role to play in this pandemic. I think it's important that everybody feels that they have a role to play, that everybody needs to be part of this fight against this pandemic, no matter how old you are, no matter where you live, no matter what type of situation you are in. There are actions that you can do to keep yourself safe and to keep your loved ones safe.
Thank you, Maria. Dr. Mike, do you have a message for young people today on Youth Day?
I have a message for a very special young person. It's my son, Tom, is 15 years old today.
Oh,
it's his
happy birthday.
So happy birthday, Tom. And a fine youth he is. And in reflecting on I just think that young people, young adults, they're the engine of society's ideas. They're the engine of innovation. They don't believe any idea is crazy. They're willing to try anything once. And so I think we need to leverage and sort of amplify the creativity of youth and be very careful. We've seen some of the rhetoric in the last number of days, sort of, oh, it's the young people's fault. It's nobody's fault. The pandemic is not the fault of young people. It's not the fault of old people. It's a virus that's spreading in our society. And once it can enter and establish itself in any geographic area or in any age group, it represents a threat to all areas and all age groups. So we all need to play our part, as Maria said. But I think young people need to, as Maria said, engage, become part of the solution, drive the solution. I said it here before. I think future is in the hands of the youth. It's your world, and you need to get on with taking control of this virus, just as we're trying.
Thank you both. I would invite all viewers, and especially those who celebrate Youth Day, to ask their questions. If you're watching us on Twitter, use hashtag AskWHO. On other platforms, please leave your questions via comments section. You both mentioned that we want young people engage in this response, but what do you think, where do we need the help from young people the most in this response?
I mean, I think there's a number of things that young people can do specifically. First of all, for keeping themselves safe. So there's a number of actions that everybody can do to prevent themselves from being exposed to the virus, and prevent themselves from getting infected, and prevent themselves from passing it to somebody else. And these are the basics, in terms of washing your hands, making sure your hands are clean, washing them or using an alcohol-based rub many times per day, making sure that you practice physical distancing. And again, we say physical distancing and not social distancing because we want you to stay physically distant from someone, at least 1 meter apart, but remain socially connected. It is so important that we stay socially connected with our loved one and our friends, because it's very, very difficult to be separated from our family and friends. Make sure that you avoid crowded places. Right now, this virus really likes crowds, and it can spread between people in crowds. So if you can avoid those right now, that's important. And if you're asked to do something like stay at home, please stay at home. If you're asked to wear a mask, please wear a mask. But I think also one of the things that we need young people's help with is through this social net that we live in, and passing good information around. There's so many different platforms that information is spreading. Make sure that information is accurate. Make sure that it is not myths, it's not disinformation, and that it won't harm people, and pass good information around. And then lastly, just a plea to young people to help the older people in your family get themselves set up on with technology. And I say this as someone who's had to help my own parents, set up FaceTime and Zoom and all those different things. Be patient with your family members. Help them set up these different types of platforms so that they can stay connected. I know many grandparents are isolated and feeling quite isolated. So there's different ways that you can make them still feel connected, and give them a call, check in on them. And we've been so overwhelmed by the amazing acts of kindness of young people in everyday life. I mentioned before my son drawing rainbows for all of us, or people just checking in on their neighbors, picking up groceries, doing things that are safe, but just, looking out for one another.
Thank you, Maria. We are already starting to receive questions from our viewers, and someone watching us on Twitter is asking, how can kids be more involved in fighting COVID?
You want me to take? You take?
Yeah,
I have kids.
You have kids.
You've got some pretty
Both
cool
have
kids.
I've got some pretty cool kids, yeah. Well, again, doing all of the steps that they can do in washing their hands and physical distancing. The other thing that they can do and get involved in is volunteer. They can volunteer to help, even if it's just within your own home, helping out around the house, helping out around their neighborhood of people that maybe need some help, checking in on them, running some errands for them, of course, if it's safe. Another thing they can do is donate, and they can raise money. And I'll mention my own niece, who raised almost $1,300 by making barrettes out of ribbons. And she raised $1,298, my niece Emma, and she donated it to the Solidarity Fund to help us do all of the work that we do and help countries. And we're seeing lots of young people come up with innovative ways to raise money. And then the last thing I would say is to help us be creative in the solutions of what our new normal looks like. This is a difficult time. It's a challenging time for all of us. And we're all sort of figuring out what our new normal looks like. And we're going to be dealing with this virus for some time. But we need your ideas. We need you to help us be creative about keeping connected and keeping ourselves learning and all of that. And so we look forward to that creativity and innovation and helping us to find a new way forward.
Absolutely. And I think just also, and I know this may sound a little crass, but I think there's an optimism about young people and hope. And it's tough on older adults and older people. I know in the case of some of the older people in my life, they feel in many ways they have limited time. A year is a huge part of the rest of their lives, and they're losing that year. And it causes a lot of that isolation and that. And I think there's nothing more infectious than the hope of youth. There is nothing that enlivens and creates that energy in community or in a household than young people and just doing what they do. And I just think that joy and that enthusiasm for life is what we need now, and that hope, and just being kind and not participating in the negative stuff. It's a time for kindness. People are tired, people are isolated, people are nervous, people are unsure. Everyone's a little bit more tense than they were before. And it's amazing just how a kind word, ask people how they're doing, just ask people how they're feeling, and more empathy with other people in your own house, in your own community, in your school. And know that there are others who may be in a much more difficult situation than you, and there are people who are isolated by maybe they're migrants, maybe they've got other situations in their life. They're already isolated, they're already feeling excluded, and then COVID-19 has created more isolation. So it's even more important for that to be the case. And Maria was talking about volunteering as well. And we've seen medical students and student nurses go in essentially into the front lines. We've seen a lot of college students volunteer to become contact tracers. So it depends what age group you're in, but there's a lot of younger adults who have qualifications and don't necessarily have access to jobs right now, and there's lots that can be done in volunteering. In fact, we could do with a few interns over here if anyone is interested in working 22 hours a day. Send your CV. But I think for everybody, and as I said, there's nothing that lights up the life of an older person in our society than a visit from a young person, a phone call, Facebook, text, and maybe if everyone who's looking at this right now could just right now stop, send a text message to some person that they think needs to just contact.
Yeah.
We could make a difference right now.
Yep.
If everyone just did that. And I think that is very important, and it's not to be underestimated. We all get through crisis through solidarity. It's not just in the movies, not just the way it works. You stick together, you get through things together, and this is a time when we do that, and no one better than young people to bring that joy and that sense of community to life.
You know, Alec, just to say, we're all in this together, you know, and it's not just an adult problem that we're having here, it's all of us that are dealing with this. And I think a lot of young people, this is impacting young people, and we recognize that, and everybody recognizes that, and this is tough. This is tough, and I think one of the things we need to do for young people is listen. Not just talk to, not just talk about, but listen to. So I do hope you're getting some questions from young people, because we need to hear, we need to listen, we need to engage, and we need their voice. We need your voice as part of the discussion, as part of the solution, as part of the way forward. And that will make us all better. It will make the response better. It will make the future better. So don't be shy. Good ideas, bold ideas need to be heard, and they don't come from people who are shy. So speak up, you know, hold us all accountable, push us further, and work. And we all are in this together.
Thank you both. I just want to mention that a viewer on Periscope was leaving the comment, help them understand that these steps help protect their friends and the people they love. So I think you actually were responding at the time we were receiving this comment, so I just wanted to acknowledge a viewer. So here is one question coming from LinkedIn. Many young and lonely people are facing anxiety and depression when struggling with quarantine and other aspects of COVID-19. What recommendation and guidelines does the WHO provide?
This is a great question. One of the things we recommend is to keep a routine. So it is very important that, you know, every day when you get up, you have a routine. You have your breakfast, you take your shower, you get dressed, you have the activities that you should do every day. And having that routine is quite helpful. I know many people, especially, you know, people working here who started teleworking. There were lots of people who stayed in their pajamas a little bit, which we used to tease, but that's understandable. But getting in that routine of getting up and getting active is important. The other thing is to try to limit, it's important to have some screen time and to have some ways of connecting with people, but to limit that screen time to not all day, not too much, some actual interactions with people. Try to avoid sources of news that may cause anxiety, because there's a lot of information out there. A lot of it is quite scary. Some of it is wrong. Some of it is very, very good. Keep yourself informed, but try not to overdo it. And I think do things that make you happy every day. So this pandemic is scary. This pandemic causes anxiety, but it does not stop us from listening to music or reading a book or laughing or talking with loved ones. Find the things that make you happy every day and make sure that you carve out a little bit of time to do that. And it's okay. It's okay to laugh, and it's okay to have a little bit of fun in going through something like that. But make that time for yourself.
Or even finding ways to be active.
Exactly,
at home.
yep.
There was a story that we read recently about two girls in Italy while they were on quarantine. They were playing tennis from rooftops of their terraces. So it was a beautiful story. There are some questions coming as well about the effects of this pandemic on young people. Besides mental health and anxiety, what are the other consequences that we can notice on young people?
So the first thing is that all people can be infected with this virus. We know that, whatever age group they are. What the data is telling us so far is that the majority of younger people who are infected tend to have a more mild disease. But that's not always the case. So we do that